Welcome to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Cagley here with Larry Smith. We've got a treat. One of the Illini guys actually has a free moment.
And that's the hardest thing, right? For you and I to get our schedules together at the same time. It's impossible to do.
Yeah, it's hard enough to do a radio show, let alone get some time on podcast, folks. You don't know what this is a treat for me as well as the listeners. We get an opportunity to listen to Larry Smith. Of course, Larry is the anchor of LEX in 18 in Lexington, Kentucky. Former CNN anchor, has done a ton of work in television over the last 30 years. So one of the guiding forces in the Illini Guys. If you enjoy the Illini Guys Sports Spectacular, Larry does all the production. He does all the planning. He's the guy that basically tries to make Brad and I look good, which is a very, very taxing job on him. And so if you enjoy that show, it's all Larry.
I'm getting better at it. No, we have a lot of fun. And it's one thing that, when we go to games, we get asked about that. And it's funny to hear some of the comments. And the thing is, honestly, like, we're all friends. Like, we've all known each other for 10, 15. I've known Brad for 20 years, going back to the 05 season when we first met. That's the cool thing, is that we get together and really it's like just fellas talking. Like, it's really easy work.
Yeah, and it's not fake. That's the part I think that people really don't understand till they see us in person. Like when Brad and I go into Papa Del's, they go, "Oh, you guys do like to eat pizza." They think it's a joke until they have to order a second pizza. Then it's not so funny anymore. So today, folks, we're going to be talking a little bit about the best of 2025 for the Illini. We're going to go sport by sport. We may not hit every sport, obviously, but there are ones that the Illini fans tell us they want to hear about. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and go through the sports. So, Larry, 2025 is a heck of a year. I will find myself going back and almost time traveling back to the era of Neil Stoner, athletic director, Mike White, football coach, Lou Henson, basketball coach. And for the first time since the 80s, I feel like we have the triumvirate that is very similar. I don't know how you feel on that subject, but maybe we can kind of knock that one around a little bit for younger fans who, folks, when I was 17 years old, I thought the Illini were going to be in the top 10 to 15 in both sports for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Here's to add to Mike, here's my opening thought with that, is that for the first time since the 80s, Illini fans can go buy a ticket and walk into either the stadium or across the street, the arena, and feel like you have a chance at winning. And that hasn't happened in both sports consistently since then. And you've had moments, there was a Rose Bowl year, and there was a Zook started 6-0, and the year that he ended 6-6, and they fired him, and the purgatory began, right? So, but this is, I think that's what's big, is that it's one thing. And, for me, I was always, my years at CNN, I am a novice at tailgating, and people laugh at that. And I'm here to talk honestly, because my entire life, since I was 19, 20 years old, I was either already inside the stadium when everyone else was tailgating, working pregame, getting ready to cover the game, or I was in the studio at CNN or at Turner Sports, ready to talk about all the games and all the highlights. So I am very new. I've tailgated, literally, you can count on both hands how many times in my lifetime I've tailgated, and we just got to the second hand, like maybe last year. So it's neat to be able to go to outside now Gates Memorial Stadium and see just rows and rows of tailgaters and this whole culture that goes on. It's like an alien coming on Earth for the first time. Like, I'm just amazed at the money and the effort that goes into this, and the camaraderie and the people coming together and meeting and then. But, when we first started this on Illini Guys, 5 years ago, the party started and ended there. Like, people didn't always go inside. Like, what? Yeah. I'm having a better time here. I hope they win, but they're probably not going to. So let's just stay here and have another beer. Now people have adjusted and changed, where they make sure that they stop tailgating in time to get inside for kickoff. And after decades of mediocrity, that's what's exciting, is to see that happen. And of course, basketball has been there, for a much longer time. but to see what Brad Underwood has done there, and of course Shauna Green with women's basketball, these are fun times right now, and you feel the energy among the Illini fan base.
It is amazing to see that even in the years we've been in existence since 2021, Brett Bielema, say what you want, because both of us were not certain that was the best hire in the world, and we freely admit we were wrong. I've told Brett that in an interview. He's done a fantastic job of bringing that life back to the Geese Memorial Stadium and around the outside, because you can't imagine what it was like in the 1970s when we were kids. Illinois was arguably, maybe with maybe Dartmouth in the Ivy League, might have been the worst team in Division One. Certainly there, but given Indiana and Northwestern all they could handle, and all of a sudden the '80s and Mike White comes around. And folks, I used to be dropped off by my dad right next to the stadium because they didn't even close down Florida at that time. They didn't even close it down. You would literally get dropped off right there, and there used to be a way to get in right at the gate right underneath the horseshoe. And I'd be dropped off with a buddy with $5 bill, and we would walk in, pay $1 to sit in the end zone, have $4 to get a popcorn and a Coke, and we could sit anywhere in the end zone because it was us. There was almost no one there. To going to what it was in the '80s where it was crazy, and now it's like a flashback to that, because I swear when I walk up and you can smell the barbecues of people's tailgates and stuff, I'm transported back to 1983, and that type of feeling is something that I didn't know that we'd ever feel again. I went from taking it for granted to wondering if we'd ever see it. And I got to give Josh Whitman credit. He is not perfect. Lovey Smith, I thought, was a good hire. It was a good risk. It didn't work, but then he follows up with Brett Bielema. He has to clean up the John Gross mess, brings in Brad Underwood, gives both these guys the support, and then gets the heck out of their way. Then brings in Shauna Green, and I didn't think that what she's doing with the women's basketball team was even possible.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Let me start with Bielema. And I think for many of us, and again, this is I will tell you, I've interviewed Brett, obviously, via Zoom. I have never stood in front of Brett and shaken his hand. This is nothing against him personally or whatever. But I think for many of us, we saw somebody who, I think Illinois fans saw somebody who succeeded in Wisconsin with a program that was already rolling under Barry Alvarez. He took it from there and kept going. He goes to Arkansas, does not have great success, doesn't last long. And I think for many fans, because he went and did some things in the NFL as an assistant, that Arkansas is still in everyone's mind. But I'll tell you this. Here's what Brett Bielema has done. My career, in a couple of weeks, next week, next month, I'll celebrate my 38th anniversary in broadcast. So during that time, I've covered the John Malkovich era at Illinois, late Johnny Majors in Tennessee, late Bobby Bowden, Steve Spurrier at Florida, Dennis Erickson, obviously CNN, a lot of different coaches, but Mark Richt era. That's just a few. All of those had one very minor, simple thing in common. All of them, it felt like they were in total control of their program and every aspect of their program. That's what Brett Bielema has brought back to Illinois. That when he goes up there on Monday, he's got his folder, he's got his notes, here's the things you need to know, and he spends 20 minutes answering questions. And when I watch that each week, I feel like here's somebody who's in control. Now, you may not like his process. You may not agree with the results. You may think he should have done this or fired that coach or started this player or whatever. And that's fine. You have that right to do that. But here's somebody who I think really knows what he wants to do, knows how to build a program. And I think for any fans who maybe, if let's just say they don't win, they don't beat Tennessee. Yeah, 8-5 is disappointing. But take that sentence on its own. Illinois finishing 8-5 in a football season is disappointing. I've never heard those words said before from an Illinois fan. So if you're disappointed, good. because that means you have higher expectations. And again, back-to-back 8-win seasons, Mike, you got to go back to it. Hadn't happened since John Makovic. Mike White didn't do it. I mean, it only happened 3 times ever. I wrote about this 4 years ago in Bielema's first year. I said, as he comes in, I said, listen, if he gets back-to-back 8-win seasons, they might build a statue of him outside. And I'm only half kidding. Well, we're here already, and now a chance to have back-to-back 9-win seasons, which has never been done. So what Bielema has done, I think, is outstanding. And I think like you said, Josh Whitman having the foresight that Levy Smith I thought was an smart, educated try. It made sense financially because he was still getting money from the Buccaneers. So that made good sense. Didn't work. He pivoted, and now, the program is on the upswing.
Yeah, I think Bielema is an interesting cat too, because he loves talking about the great coaches that he's worked for and what they've given to him and what he learned from them, which is totally different than a lot of guys who want to talk about their this and I did that. Bielema is talking about, Bill Snyder, talking about, Hayden Fry, talking about Kirk Ferentz, Barry Alvarez, and Bill Belichick. And I just keep thinking, I've used this analogy before, but when Brett sits in front of you and he scratches his nose with his right hand, you think to yourself, hey, what the schedule says for 11:47 in the morning to scratch his nose with his right hand, and now he's doing it. And there's some amalgamation of all these really good coaches that he's now getting a chance to prove. And you and I, we're not the type of guys, we're not looking for more friends, but you and I are 58 roughly years old. We know Coach Bielema is 54 and
easy, but I know. Go ahead.
Yeah, but we know Bielema is 54-ish and Underwood's 61. They're not looking for more friends either. We just want to cover the team, and so I love, though, getting into an interview situation with Bielema, because he really, when you ask good questions, you can see him thinking about them as he's giving you a unique answer, which I think is one of the really fun things. He's not just going through it. And then even Underwood, when you talk to Brad one-on-one, they give you real real answers. And I don't know anybody that Shauna, I think, you ask her a question, you better be prepared for her to answer it. So I would never ask Shauna, hey, what do you think of my columns? Because she'd give me an honest answer I might not want to hear.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that Brad and you're right. They're all, I think, very candid in their answers. There's going to be coaches speak. That's going to happen. But I think with Brad, if you want to know how real Brad is, go back and listen to his Monday presser before senior day and the raw emotion in that. You and I know I friendly debate with Mike Farrell, who did some stuff for IlliniGuys for a couple of years, and we think it works fantastic. We're big fans. We just decided to go another direction. There's nothing against him, what he was doing, as you know, for the website IlliniGuys.com. And Mike and I went back. Mike, he felt that this was a stepping stone for Brett to get back into greener pastures. And I believe from the very beginning, I said, I think, again, not knowing Brett personally, but as a dad, and someone who is in his 50s and someone who is looking at life beyond today, and how am I going to, I've got, as I joked with a colleague, I had my birthday last month, and she said, you don't celebrate birthdays. I said, yeah, I don't celebrate birthdays. I said, one, she's like half my age. I said, when you get my age, you realize you have fewer days ahead of you than you've already experienced. So it's a different perspective. But I think for Brett, for me, what I saw in Brett Bielema, different from Wisconsin or Arkansas, is he now has a wife and he has 2 little girls. And in coaching, the one negative of coaching is you're constantly moving around. So for Brett Bielema, if he can find a home close to where he grew up, right? It's just a few hours away, out west there in Prophetstown, and he can build something here and be special. I'm not saying Brett will never leave. I'm not saying that. But it would take something monumental, because he has a chance. It's not about him anymore. If you're a coach and your kids can go to school K through 12 or 1 through 12, are you kidding me? And you're making $7-8 million a year in Champaign, where it spends very well.
And you have a statue.
And yeah, by the time, you'll go to their high school graduation, and then a week later they'll go to the unveiling of your statue. So exactly. So I think that's where he's very honest, and I think the same with the other coaches is there's a certain quality there, and it goes back to Josh Whitman in terms of look at his predecessor. I don't think people could say the same about the former AD who was here before Josh Whitman, but I think again it's a culture there that they're building, and I think it's exciting to be sitting here and have this seat that we have watching Illinois sports right now.
Yeah, and I do think that it's well to sit back and look at what Bielema has done over the years, and basically, this is just the fourth time in the history of Illinois football that Illinois has won 18 games over a 2-year period. That goes back to the teams of 1901 and '02, 1902 and '03, and then '89 and '90.
Mhm.
And so you're talking about, as you noted, that is a huge thing, and he has an opportunity to win the 19th game against Tennessee, which would then break a record. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't for the mercurial lightning in a bottle of Kurt Signetti, I think Brett Bielema would be much more hailed across the country for turning around a team that was in the dumpster.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Signetti came and did even more dramatic. Also, the NIL spending and his ability to do things is unique, and the situation he got into was unique. But I think Bielema's rebuild of Illinois, I don't think people really understand how hard it is to take a team that basically from 1991, 92, except for 2 seasons, hasn't really competed for 25 years.
Yeah, and here's something else too that I think is really special that I have not heard mentioned anywhere else. So we love doing exclusive things with Illini guys. We love doing stuff that putting out things no one else has seen. Here's something too I've not seen this, and maybe I just haven't read it because it's the holidays and we're all busy doing other stuff with family. Brett Bielema, if Illinois beats Tennessee Tuesday in the Music City Bowl, will become the first Illinois head coach to win bowl games in back-to-back seasons.
Wow.
The only other coach to do it was Ron Zook, but he didn't coach in the bowl game because
Right.
Mike Thomas fired him, so he wasn't the coach. So it was Vic. So yeah, I mean, so again, we talk about it again doing things, and that's and I just looked it up by the way, so I can't pretend I'm smarter than you. That's all I do with it. So no, I just happen to look it up. That says I'm a numbers nerd, and everyone knows that. So, but I think that but the bigger thing for me, the reason I want this win for the Illini is for the program because yes, okay, 8 wins back to back seasons, that enough is fantastic. But let's go do something you haven't done before. Let's go win, as you said, 19 games over 2 years. Let's go win back to back bowl games under this same coach for the first time in back-to-back years. We're already seeing the momentum, and we saw that on signing day. The portal, they're being very coy about the portal, which coaches do that, especially football coaches. They're very anal about
Yes.
that. They don't want to give anything away. Bielema is no different than anybody else I've ever covered. That's just what they do. But I think get that momentum. There was such great momentum after the bowl win last year. And of course, he was messing with Shane Beamer and the whole, the T and all that. Let's have that again. Let's go beat a Tennessee team that doesn't appear to be real enthused to be here coming off a playoff appearance last year, right? So let's go out, take advantage of that, go 9-5, back-to-back wins over the SEC in bowl games, and go into January with all the freshmen coming onto campus and carry that momentum into next year with the changes you're going to have in that program.
Yeah, and you can tell that Tennessee fans are a little bit, even when I talked to a guy, he's like, we've got 5 or 6 guys out, depending on how you want to treat one of the guys who has a knee injury, and Illinois has 2. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to really like try to say that's a huge factor. But I do think that this is a Tennessee fan base that was expecting, hey, we got blown out in the CFP last year, but this year we're going to take a step up. And when they had 2 games that they had to win against ranked teams, they didn't step up. They got knocked down.
Mhm.
And so they're a little bit frustrated, but I got to think that the fans are one way. You got to think that Josh Heupel wants to go out and win. And I also have no doubt in the world that Brett Bielema is not taking this team to Nashville to just do an exhibition and hope, gosh darn, we play well.
Yeah.
I think he's looking for that victory, and that 9th win would set the table and would be very nice then for January 2nd when the transfer portal opens.
Well, and how about for the career and the legacy of Luke Ottmeyer, who ended his sophomore season, his first year here on the bench, right? I mean, he was knocked out with a concussion, and John Paddock comes in, has 3 outstanding games. My God, he set the single game passing yards record. I mean, he was outstanding. Of course, the great family legacy with him coming in with the Wright family. But for him to come in and remember, think of all the great quarterbacks over the years. I mean, in the 80s, Wilson and Eason and Trudeau and, Verduzco's a top 10. Obviously Kurt Kittner, what he's done. Nathan Shieldhouse, what he did, a 4-year starter out of Kansas City. I mean, all these guys, and yet Altmaier is the only one to win 19 games in 2 years. And so I think about, again, the same with the legacy and what it means for him, for these seniors, for he and Gabe Akers won't be playing in the game. But again, these guys who were there the earlier years and helped build what's coming here, because I think Brett Bielema is here for another 10 years. I mean, I don't know that, I mean, nobody can look into a crystal ball, but if I'm a betting man and my limit's like $10, I'm laying my 10 on Brett is here in 2035. And he's got a couple of Big Ten championships under his belt. There's a playoff appearance or 2 in there as well. And he's looking at doing, retching his own name in the record books. And yes, they're putting up a statue of him. Let's get this win to continue that trajectory and not just be, because what I also don't want to see is the one thing Illinois teams struggle late in the season. November is just not, I think we looked up, they haven't had a winning record in November. I think it was like 1994 or something. It's been a while. I don't quote me on that number. It's been a while, but let's finish this up in a big way and have back-to-back wins in the season. You keep the hat and the crazy game against Northwestern there at home, and then let's get this one in Nashville.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have a T moment, like with Shane Beamer, but we can hope. We can hope. You've got both coaches doing stuff that's T-shirt worthy between the T for Bielema and the orange tracksuit for Coach Underwood. So, when it comes down to this Illini season, 8-4, to me, the Indiana game, I was very concerned because that Indiana team looked really good. I don't think the teams were that far apart, but when you get a lot of injuries and you're forced to play freshmen in game 3 versus having injuries and forced to play them in game 9, 10, or 11, it's tough. Illinois had a confluence of playing a team that wanted to kill them, having a bad game, and then having injuries on top of it. Beyond that, to me, the only disappointing game this year was I felt like Ohio State was just clearly better. I felt like Wisconsin was the quintessential trap game, so it didn't surprise me. The one that surprised me was I really thought Illinois matched up better with Washington than we saw, and that game would have, winning that game would have allowed the team to be going for a double-digit victory total. I know fans will disagree with me and say, well, Wisconsin sucked, so Illinois should have automatically beat them. But I think Luke Fickell was in a very unique situation, vote of confidence, all the things going on. To me, the Washington one was the one that was the biggest question mark. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think, I can't argue against that, and I can't argue against those who thought Wisconsin was, because that's certainly valid. I agree that I thought Ohio State, look, at the time, Illinois scored more points on Ohio State than any other team, and maybe even since then, I haven't dug that up, but I agree with you, and I think that the Ohio State game, even though you lose, you had chances to win. I mean, you had the fluke. Altmaier's first interception the entire season was, bounced off, a guy's helmet and into somebody's hands. I mean, it was a fluke.
Yep.
There were at least 2 valid passive interference calls against Ohio State that weren't called. The one, they were in the first drive where the defender is pulling on the collarbone, the shoulder pad,
yep.
but the referee is behind the receiver. She couldn't see it. Can't blame her because it was out of her purview. And of course, to play Bowick in the end zone with a touchdown, and he literally shoves him out of bounds. I mean, shoves him down. That's like, well, how does that even? I mean, he literally was not playing the ball. How does that master? So, but anyway, I think that I thought they played well, and I'm with you. If you win the Washington game, I think what disappointed me was the way they just scored at ease. That was the thing. I felt that it was bad play calling on both sides of the ball at Wisconsin. The fans went nuts over the defense. In my mind, you missed what the offense didn't do. It's like that's the Indiana thing too. I mean, which happened here? Was it Indiana, was the Illinois defense that bad, or the Illinois offense that bad that just kept getting 3 and outs, could not get a first down? There's shared blame on that too. But I think these are the great thing is that you weather that storm and still wind up 8-4. We've been to way too many Illinois teams that had lost like that to Indiana would decimate the season. Next thing you know, you're 3-8 and or 4-8, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, and a highlight of the season that people don't talk about much, but they ended up handling on the road the ACC champions.
Yeah.
Western Michigan was a conference champion and beat them 38-0. You beat number 21 USC by 2 in a game that really shouldn't have been that close without one horrible call as a fumble that Illinois was on the verge of scoring. And then, you also go along and you finish with 8 wins. There were some good victories along the way there. I think this team, when I look at what they did, I predicted 9-3, so I wasn't far off. I really hope they get to the 9-win level, and I feel like the football program is on a good footing, but like all sports right now, there's another time of change coming. And they're with NIL and the salary cap, which already that's been blown out of the water by LSU, promising their next head coach that they're going to spend $10 million more than the salary cap for the whole university on football. But how Illinois navigates this next era of change is really important. But not being able to predict that, I think that they're in a really good place. And I think Bielema and Whitman will devise a strategy to deal with it that hopefully will work for Illinois.
Yeah, and I hope that fans give a chance to do that. Look, every team in Power 4 is going to go through this, okay? I mean, it's not just Illinois, not the only ones going to go through and try to change and figure out what's next. It starts for everybody on January 2nd. Obviously, some conversations already happening behind the scenes. I mean, you can kind of read the tea leaves of this quarterback suddenly is going to is going to hit the portal because his offensive coordinator went to this school and et cetera. So we're already seeing that. You're naive if you think it doesn't happen. But I think that give them a chance. Consider what they've built over this time. I think Bielema, most wins in the first 5 years, right? So he's got a chance to set that record. Give him a chance. Let's see what they got. Give him a chance to go through and find this out. Look, he's built this so far, and I think he knows what he wants. I think even with the coaching staff, he's whatever changes he'll make coming up here, if any. And just enjoy the ride. Again, for so many people listening to this, you have not enjoyed this kind of ride in your lifetime. For many of us, again, we were back, it was pre-college for us when this was happening. So, I mean, let's enjoy this ride and see what happens.
Yeah, totally agree. So with that, we'll wrap up the football section.
Red Grange wasn't just a football player, he was a legend. Discover the untold story of Illini great Red Grange in a new novel by Doug Vilhard called The Golden Age of Red. This captivating book takes you back to the 1920s when a humble young Illinois player transformed into the galloping ghost and electrified the nation. Get your copy of The Golden Age of Red by Doug Vilhard today. Available on Amazon and wherever books are sold.
And now we're going to take a turn and look at Illinois men's basketball. Larry, when we look at the basketball program, this is an interesting, of course, obviously the January is a weird break point for basketball. But to me, there's 3 things that we're looking at that I think are the biggest basketball stories. And I'm not going to really include the recruiting, which could be there as well. But I think you look at obviously made it to the NCAA tournament, maybe didn't go as far as people hoped. Then you also look at having not one, but 2 one and dones in the first round of the NBA draft. Illinois went from 0 in 120 years to 2 in one moment straight. And then I think this year, the emergence of Keaton Wagler as a unranked, unheralded recruit who is now going to have probably one of 3 things happen. Either A, he goes to the NBA at the end of the year. B, Illinois outbids everybody in the college world from the blue blood standpoint to keep him at Illinois. Or some blue blood has a cookie billionaire who offers them ungodly amount of money to transfer. So I think we have those are the three stories that stick out to me with Illinois basketball, of men's basketball. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I would agree with all those. I think Keaton Wagler has a chance here. Like you said, we may go from 0 one and dones to 3 in 2 years, right? I mean, and I think what makes Wagler even more special, and this is why I think it's really big, is that he was only a 3-star, right? I mean, only, quote, unquote, a 3-star, but he was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Kansas, was really overlooked. The story is at the time they offered, the only Minnesota had an offer. I guess there were some conversations with Kansas schools, but nothing materialized, as what I understand. Some great reporting, by the way, on our website, Kendrick Prince talking to Logan Wagler, Keaton's dad. And so that sets you up where my thing I laugh with Kentucky basketball over the years, if we go, oh, Kentucky fans, oh, we have all these guys in the NBA, man. They were all top 10 players coming out of high school.
Yeah.
They could have gone to Sister Guadalupe of the poor, in Mexico, and they still would have been top 10. I mean, it's just, but what's beautiful is you get a 3-star guy who went to Illinois and became a lottery pick. Now you open up to where, well, wow, if he can do it, then maybe I can be that guy. So, and it sounds like there's some players that maybe not quite on that level, but I know that the staff is really high about. I would also go back in the year of 2025 to the Oregon game last year, where they became the first team to beat a top 10 team at home by 30, I think was the NCAA record they set, where they just were outstanding. And I think we forget because they came back home. We had the weird game against USC. KJ had the weird forearm injury that was never really defined. What happened there? He was never quite the same player. Kylan Boswell's burning sage around the court pregame, and they get their hats handed to them by USC. And it felt like the wheels came off there. They could never quite get him back on again. Great end of the season run after the Duke debacle that I was there. And, I've never felt like Apollo Creed's coach in Rocky IV against Drago like I did that day.
Throw in the towel.
Throw the damn towel. I'm looking for the towel. I mean, it was like, oh my God, I'm watching we keep shooting threes. I'm like, let's try this. Stop shooting threes. We shot 60% from 2. But we would drive and beat the defense, and we have a wide open layup, but we kick it out for a missed 3. And when we finally started scoring, it was too late. But the experience was great. MSG, what a great arena. It lives up to the hype. That was the downside. But I think out of that, what we gained from that loss was a leader in Kylan Boswell. And we're seeing the fruits of that now with what he's doing with Keaton Wagler. I don't know if you noticed, what was really special to me in the Missouri game, and even in the Ohio State game as well, that Boswell would give the ball to Wagler, to the freshman, and let him run things. And who would have thought that was going to happen? I talked with Mike DeCourcy, great friend. I've known Mike for, my God, 25 years. We go way back. And he was saying earlier this season, yeah, when Petrovic is healthy, I mean, everything I'm hearing is that Underwood's going to start him. I'm like, we keep hearing on the inside that he may come off the bench, that you can't get Wagler off the court. And I think with what he's done, look, in the 4 games since the UConn game, Wagler is shooting more than, and I said this on the Sports Spectacular for this weekend shows, Wagler's shooting more than 50% from 3 with 24 assists and only 6 turnovers and leading the team in scoring. And it's a team of veteran guys who can score. Boswell had 25 against UConn. I mean, Ivicic has hit double-doubles. Merkovich has had a 20-20 game this year. Zvonimir is a veteran. Stojakovic is a scorer. And so with all these scorers, all this talent on the court, the little freshman, the guy nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but laugh about Casey Jacobson, who was the Fox color guide. I'm sorry to keep going on here, Mike. The Fox Sports color analyst during the game. And he kept saying, well, if you haven't heard of Keaton Wagler, and I wanted to say, and if you watch ESPN, you haven't, because they don't talk about freshmen outside of the big guys. But I mentioned before that back after the Ohio State game, there were 7 freshmen in the country averaging at least 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 rebounds a game. 2 of them are on Illinois, and David Merkovich and Keaton Wagler. He's a special player. I think that he's fantastic. And I would go back to the Oregon game as well. The other things you talked about, getting a win in the NCAA. You want to go deeper, but at least get that win, get that experience. And I'm anxious to see what they do here in January in Big Ten play.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. The one thing I do think probably doesn't get enough press, and it's ironic because there is a group of fans who are mad that Tyler Underwood, the coach's son, is now an assistant coach. But when you look at Illinois right now, currently ranked 3rd in offensive efficiency, and Tyler's running the offense, it seems like he doesn't get much credit for what he's doing. And if it was you or me who was that assistant coach, there might be a lot of stories about it. And I don't know if maybe, it's just something that's taken for granted or what, but Illinois' offense being so lethal and he's now done this for a couple of years with pretty good offense. He seems a little, for lack of a better word, unheralded for the amount of work that he's doing, but more importantly, the effectiveness of the work that he's doing.
Here's my take, and here's my prediction. If Illinois reaches the second weekend of the NCAA and they have a couple of big offensive games in the first two games, as they do every night, if they can continue that, Tyler Underwood will get more love in the Sweet 16. And the reason why, like you said, this third year running the offense, right? Well, year one, you had the Terrence Shannon drama with the thing in Kansas, and it was all about Terrence Shannon coming back, Marcus Damas coming from SIU and playing his way into an all Big Ten status into the G League, right?
Yep.
29 wins that season, whatever it was. The attention was all over there. Last year, the team fell short. The game against Duke, had you beaten Duke, that momentum's there and that would have happened. But because they kept shooting threes and kept shooting and kept missing threes, my God, I could miss 24 threes in a game. You shouldn't miss 24 threes in a game if you're only making two. Sorry. Did I ever say that before? I said that again already. All right. Here's my thing. Everything you're saying is correct, but knowing how the media operates, and I made you a believer over all these years. You've got to get to the second week in the NCAA consistently. There's just no substitute. That's the reason why Michigan was down and Juwan Howard about to be fired, and yet the national media is still talking about Michigan. Why? They went to 2 title games in the last decade under John Beilein, and then Juwan takes it to an Elite Eight, and then you have to have that kind of continuum. That's why Gonzaga is a national name. That's why Duke is always talked about, because they're always Duke. They always reach it. North Carolina, etc. You have to get to that second weekend consistently. And Michigan State, that's why they're considered the dean. They're the team in the Big Ten, because they're the one team. They could finish 8th in the Big Ten and yet still reach the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. So my prediction is, if that happens, you're going to have whatever. Wagler's going to come. Let's just say these things are continuing. They're continuing right now. Wagler's going to be a big name this fresh, and oh my God, how do we miss him? Because you were too busy saying Cam Boozer's name over and over again. That's how you missed him.
Right.
But I think then when you're in the media and you get to the Sweet 16 and you separate all the other teams, it's only these left. We in the media are then looking for those other storylines. And I think that's where somebody somewhere, and it'd be good for the Illinois SIDs to put that out there in their media kit, to kind of point out that they're, hey, listen, under Tyler Underwood, they've won back-to-back or 3-time scoring champs in the Big Ten. Put that in the notes and let there, because these guys will get that. And when you get to the end of the season and people who aren't familiar with the Big Ten or Illinois, they'll be looking for those notes. And that's where that storyline comes up. And hopefully he'll get some more press that he deserves.
And that goes to, for those people who aren't Illini Guys subscribers, Larry does articles for us, and he talks about the importance of getting to the second weekend, and it has nothing to do with dribbling a basketball. It has everything to do with capitalizing on the media, capitalizing on ESPN, and using that potentially for recruiting and to build credibility. And the other one, which I will leave you to search on your own, is the white glove theory, which is white jersey theory, which is how the calls go in the NCAA tournament. And if you read those series of articles, that will tell you that Bruce Weber's biggest mistake as an Illini coach was not trying to find a way to wear a white jersey in that championship game.
I will go to my grave, and I've talked to Bruce about. Bruce and I, we're friends. In fact, I put this in my book. I'm finishing my book on my career. It's done. I'm tweaking it. I don't like the way it laid out, so I'm tweaking it before I get it to the publisher. But I talk about I've known Bruce for so long and so well. I actually told Bruce I was leaving CNN Sports before I told my own mother. That's so.
Wow.
I just happened to have a conversation with him, and literally before I told my mother, I told Bruce. So we're not buddies. We're acquaintances, and he's a good guy. But yeah, that was the game back then. And I joked, Jay Price was the assistant coach at the time, who was in charge of scheduling and logistics, whatever. And I teased Jay too. I'm like, it's your fault if you had just worn white. but everyone, they wore orange and they just were so fantastic. I was still putting all that together at the time. I didn't know definitively, but I told Tom Crean this years ago, and he stopped and wrote it down. I said, when you're in the tournament, wear white. You have to wear white. If you have a chance to wear white in the tournament.
Yep.
You'll thank me later.
Yep, and that will leave you to ponder spending $99 a year for our IlliniGuys.com subscription. That will give you none of the paywalls, so you can get back and look at all of our articles. And most importantly, you can get in on our message boards. That's a community of thousands of Illini fans worldwide. People get to have friendships, argument ships, but most importantly is you get a chance to go directly to Larry, Brad, Ked, Matt, or myself and say, what did you mean by this? And it takes the experience of being an Illini fan from a passive one, just listening to somebody tell you what happened, what's it mean, what should you carry away from it, to you going interactive instead of being lectured to and talked down to. You're actually saying, hey, Larry, what did you mean by this? Oh, now I get it. Or, hey, did you consider this or that? And having one of us go, no, I think we're going to do more work on that. So that's the advantage of joining IlliniGuys.com. And part of that $99, to be honest, we use that to cover the games. So that allows Brad to fly to, Madison or to New York City so he can cover the Madison Square Garden game. Or if we send Matt on a plane to go deal with Oregon football, he gets a chance to not have to have his arms so tired. He can actually use a plane. We love those things. So please consider IlliniGuys.com. Go there. You get the first week for free. And then it's, $99 a year. It's a great deal.
Yeah.
Love to have everybody there.
And Mike, let me throw this in too. I was doing some math here, end of the year, more than 1,000 articles over this past calendar year. So that means literally it is a dime per article. And not only then that makes the message boards free, everything else free. And I want to go back again, the game room. If you'd like to sit down with 50 to 60 other Illini fans and have a chat real time with them, that is hilarious. And I find the Illini Guys members are as smart and savvy Illinois basketball fans as there are. And you get the tidbits as well. We've always got whoever is there. It's, you or me or Brad or Matt or Ked, or we'll all jump in with our courtside notes. I covered the game at Ohio State and was saying, hey, by the way, here's, they're going to wear their blue, or just talk with the players. Here's what, this happened. Brad Underwood just said this to the referee or whatever. So you talk about having like real-time access to, like, not only in the locker room, but even right there at courtside. That game room itself, to me, would pay for itself, because we do that for all the football and basketball games.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of basketball, we've talked a little bit about men's basketball. Now let's go ahead and pivot over to women's basketball, where Shauna Green is basically in the midst of transforming this Illinois team into something that it hasn't been for decades. I don't even know if that's a fair assessment.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
Talk a little bit about how important it was for Illinois not only to make the NCAA tournament, but to turn over as many players as they did coming into this year, and having an extremely successful pre-Big Ten, season record, non-conference record here early in the 2025-2026 season.
Yeah, 11-1 going into tomorrow's game at Purdue, right? It's the second big. They already just slapped down Indiana before in a game that I thought they could win. I didn't think they could dominate like that. It was really impressive. The big game is New Year's Day, and everyone, I don't know what you got planned New Year's Day, but it's a 3 p.m. I think it's a 3 p.m. tip at State Farm Center. Try to get out there. I know they're getting about 5,000, but boy, let's try to get to 8,000 or 9,000 for this one. Maryland comes in. And the one knock against Illinois is, they're 11-1, but they haven't played that behemoth yet. Maryland is that behemoth. This is huge. What Shauna has done, to your point, to It's one thing to do that, and she's talked about this in some of her interviews, to go out and have the veteran leadership of Adalia McKenzie, of Kendall Bostic, who set all kinds of records. Kyra Cook was part of that. Genesis Bryant, who's now doing a great job in broadcast. I just saw Genesis a couple months ago. I'm so proud of what she's doing and really supporting efforts as she begins to build her career. She's outstanding and just really talented. Bryn Shoup Hill, part of that. So all these players, and now you've had this new young mix, and they're playing very well right now. They're going to lose some games. They're not getting any love in the polls. That's okay, because they're building something. And I think the thing is that they can get a chance to get back to the NCAA. Now you're talking back-to-back, coming off the championship in the WBIT 2 years ago. Again, this is where we dismiss these other tournaments that aren't the NCAA, but for a program like Illinois, what a run that was, because the momentum, you took that momentum, you carried it into a second-round appearance in the NCAA tournament. And here's the thing. I don't know what this team's going to do this year. They're so young. Obviously, Ciara Parchment, the Illini gal, coming in from Canada, has just been great to have on the show each week and to get her insights as someone who joined the program. Last year she didn't play in the spring semester, but she joined mid-year.
Yep.
And was part of it, and she got a chance to learn by osmosis with all those seniors. Keep in mind, next year, Manuela Alves suffered a knee injury, season-ending injury right before the season, as did Erica Finney. Alves, who played on the Brazilian national team and played even with Angel Reese in an exhibition game back in May down in Baton Rouge. And then Erica Finney coming in from Australia, again, another highly touted international player. You're going to add those two players, and Shauna has one scholarship open. If you looked around, they didn't sign anybody for the 2026 class. They're going to leave that open probably for the transfer portal. Is there maybe one player they can add? Well, you're going to add those two injured players, possibly maybe another player in the transfer portal. We'll watch and see what happens to this group that nobody graduates here. Dolan's a junior. Wallace is a sophomore. I think Brown Hager is a junior. So imagine this team with all this experience, and then you get better. Aaliyah Guyton is, hopefully, if she can stay healthy. This is exciting, and I hope that people really play. I know that, look, money is tight, but it's part of your entertainment dollars. Buy some tickets, go out there, support this team, because this is what Shauna is building is very, very special. We haven't seen this since the days of Teresa Grants when she was here, more than 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I guess I would be remiss in not talking about highlights of 2025 with the original Illini gal. Adalia she basically went ahead and got married to Ben Humrickhouse, Adalia McKenzie. So we've got congratulations to the young couple. And already I think Coach Green and Coach Underwood are probably trying to make sure that when that first baby comes along, which one gets choice so that they can become the second generation Illini out of that family, but not just regular Illini, but lettering and participating Illini out there on the basketball court.
That's right. Yeah. Swaddled in orange and blue from the time. They'll probably have like the orange and blue blankies when the baby comes out, right? Exactly. Right there. Congrats to them. I see Adalia's already changed her last name to Humrickhouse on her social media. Very cute. We're so proud of, we've known Dal since she was a freshman and coming on the show at the time. It's been a joy to watch her grow as a young woman and as a person, as a Christian, as well as we've talked about her faith a lot on the show. I think the big moment for them, obviously, was the NCAA tournament, was getting the win last year, the opening win, and advancing to the second round, beating Creighton, I believe it was. That was a big moment because, again, that's something we hadn't seen. They got the tournament back in year one and lost in the playoff game. I believe it was Mississippi State, right up, and they lost that game up at Notre Dame. Again, the big win, in 2024, winning the postseason tournament, and then getting this victory again. We're talking about climbing and consistency, and I think that's the thing too with Illinois sports we haven't seen. I mentioned it with football. We get the one moment and we're excited, and then we don't follow up with that. They followed up with their success at the WBIT with getting a win in the NCAA tournament. And so as you're building, that's another brick you can put as you're building the pyramid, as you're building the tower of success. And so I think, again, everyone knows we mention all the time, we're big friends, big fans of Shauna, of Calamity, and all the Brittany, all the coaches there on the staff. And it's just a fantastic team that Shauna's put together there. And it's exciting to see where this team's going to go. I think they can get to 20 wins, and I think they can possibly get another shot at the NCAA tournament here coming up in March.
And the one question that I'll ask that I don't think Shauna will like, but with a successful year this year, when is some athletic director going to be smart enough to go to Calamity McIntyre? You can run our team, because when you deal with her, not only is she an engaging personality, but she knows how to drive for success, and she knows the sport of basketball extremely well. I just keep looking and thinking to myself, there's a really good head coach sitting there waiting for an athletic director who has either half a brain or just put on their glasses to find her.
Yeah. It's coming. Her and Brittany both. I mean, I think it's coming for both of them, and the pedigree that they both have. They're both just outstanding coaches. You know it's coming. It's just a question of when. And I'm sure that Shauna would hate to lose her from her staff, but she gets it at the same time. And
Yep.
look, when you look ahead, Shauna is so young herself. Look 10 years down the line, and how many coaches may come out of her tree if she has the kind of success that we think that she can, to go on to other programs. So I think that, again, she's the youngest of the three coaches we're talking about, obviously, but I think with the three of them, you're talking about something being built right now for the long haul. And I think if you're Josh Whitman, if you're the Illini boosters and the people who handle the money with the athletic director, I mean, she got another raise, and they did that again. They'll keep continuing to sweeten that pot as they need to keep her around and not let other schools get to her, because she can do. Look, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, 15 years ago, we didn't talk about LSU basketball, right? 15
Yep.
years ago, we didn't talk about South Carolina basketball in the women's game. You make those right hires, put the right people in place, and there you go. Why can't Illinois and Shauna Green be that? I don't see any reason why they can't.
Yeah, especially it used to be UConn and Tennessee the whole time.
Every time.
Now all of a sudden you've got a new people in town, and I would think Shauna's got to be much more palatable on a day-to-day basis than Kim. That's a hypothetical. I don't know for sure, but I'm willing to put some money on that.
Well, she's a better dresser, for one. I mean,
Yeah.
for starters. But you think about, Louisiana Tech back in the day. I mean, I go back to Old Dominion back in the day. Georgia, Andy Landers as coach. And I'll throw out again the thing people forget. UCLA. One of the greatest Bruin basketballs of all time in school history is Jackie Joyner Kersey. Jacqueline Joyner, who was a star basketball player at East St. Louis Lincoln and played basketball for 4 years at UCLA. She took 1 year off for the Olympics, and people forget how great she was. So, you get these other programs in there that programs can come and go. Illinois is putting itself in position right now, and I really think, again, if this group can stay intact, if you don't get defections and you keep the core together and maybe add a player or two in the portal, this could be a very special next 2 or 3 years for Illinois women's basketball.
Yeah, and I also wonder, when you look at, will the NCAA survive this current round of NIL? And of course, now there's more lawsuits going in. At some point, the NCAA or whoever ultimately comes out of their ashes is going to have to make these folks employees so that you can sign a labor agreement and then enforce some rules. And one wonders, with what Josh Whitman has done and his tenure at Illinois, would he be the type of person who could be a Big Ten commissioner, or even run whatever comes out of the ashes of the NCAA, whether it's a new organization or an NCAA that is reborn into a new form? Would Josh Whitman be the type of guy who runs something of that level? He's young enough that he could move on and still have a tenure of quite a period of years doing that.
Yeah, I can't, I wouldn't argue with that at all. And now, unlike Brett, I have met Josh, I've met Underwood, met Shauna Green, talked with them, of course, a number of occasions, talked with Josh as well. Big fan of his and support of what he's trying to accomplish and his team, everyone there at Bielefeld. I think that Josh is somebody, look at his resume. Let's say there is an entity beyond the Illinois campus that would be interested in him in a high level position, when he can show what he's done in the two big revenue sports and women's basketball, obviously men's golf, women's golf. He made a home run hire in soccer. They reached the NCAAs. That program resurrected in year one. Wrestling trying to get some things together right now off the mat. What he's done in terms of revenue, in terms of winning, graduation rates. I mean, all of that is all in and up. When you take Josh Whitman's resume, it's very attractive. Now, we hope he stays here for a long time as an Illini guy. We hope that. But look, when you look around the landscape in terms of that next zenith of leaders in college sports, it should not surprise anybody that if Josh Whitman's name would land on one of those lists.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I'm the guy who kind of plays that future game. Sorry, it's a salesman habit, but that is it. And I guess we'd be remiss. We're running close to the hour mark, so we do have to wrap it up. But we would be remiss not to mention some of the accomplishments of Mike Small. Arguably, could be the best coach at Illinois, maybe ever.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the golf team and some of the accomplishments, because I think people take him for granted. And boy, you don't want to do that.
No, I mean, you lose track of, is it 14 out of 15 years they won the Big
something
Ten?
like that. Yeah.
13 out of 15. I mean, it's basically the Illinois Invitational, right? The Big Ten championships. I think what he has done, as a player, he still plays himself, still competes in senior events. Mike, we've mentioned on the IlliniGuys Sports Spectacular, actually caddied for my grandfather, who was a scratch golfer, and he was part of the DUC Hookers Club that would play out at the old course in Savoy, and Mike, as a kid, would caddy for him. Know Mike for a long time. What he has done, and you're right, we do take for granted what he's done every single year, bringing guys in. He's got guys down the PGA Tour, had some wins here the past couple of years. That's been exciting, and I think that the fact that that's where we hope the other rev sports that do get all the attention that they can get to. When Illinois steps out on the course, Mike's disappointed they don't win. I've talked to Mike before and said, hey, I see here you had 8 top 10 finishes out of 10 events. Yeah, but it was, I mean, he's here to win. We're going to win this. If you're not winning, why didn't we win? What happened? And again, he's one of those that I don't know what award is worthy of Mike Small, but they should name that. I don't know, the coach of the year should be the Mike Small Big Ten Coach of the Year award when he retires. And there's got to be some award they give to commemorate just what he has meant, not only to Illinois, but the sport of golf as well. Big props. We haven't even talked to him yet on the Sports Spectacular because, after the fall season, but we know this spring they'll be in it again. They'll be right there ready to get more victories.
You know what just hit me? Did Brad Underwood copy Mike Small's European strategy?
Oh,
I have not asked Brad that, but I'm telling you, did Brad go talk to Mike Small and get some tips on how to recruit Europe?
Because he had all those Belgians on the team.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
It always comes down to the Belgians. You know that from watching Austin Powers 3.
That's right.
So I do wonder.
Movie reference in there, didn't you?
Yeah, I had. You know what? It's occupational hazard. So, but it is interesting. I would actually, because you would think that there would be a resource in terms of getting guys in internationally and just the flights throughout Europe. Now Jeff and Orlando are seasoned and grizzled veterans at this. But when they first started, I wonder if they got some tips from Mike on how to do that, because you've got a reference person right there who could tell you exactly what to do and how to do it.
You may be onto something. I had not thought about that, but for 2026, inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, now that I've said it, I'm sure it'll be several organizations will do it. So as we wrap up here, one of the things I like to tell people, of course, we have our Eye on the Illini podcast that you can get both audio version, which I am more of an audio podcast guy. You can also get it on YouTube. I see no reason to watch me, but that's just me. We also have our IlliniGuys Sports Spectacular, and that is available on podcast. It gets you our hour-long show that is on 23 stations across Illinois every Friday or Saturday. Go to IlliniGuys.com, hit the radio button, and you can find the radio station closest to you, which day it's on. Is it on Friday or Saturday, and what hour? And you can tune into your radio station. Please support your local radio station. They need all the support we can get in this changing media world. And if you can't listen to us, then download the podcast and you can get it there. We ask people to follow us on the podcast, whether it's Eye on the Illini or the IlliniGuys Sports Spectacular. If you can rate us as 5 stars, thumbs up to like us, we can really use that, because that is huge to help us out. It also points us out to advertisers. If you want to write a review and say how much you like it, that's good. It helps other fans as well. And the most important thing you can do is you can share. If you share it on your social media, if you can share it when you've got some friends who are Illini fans, text over a link to them. That's what we need, because the more people who subscribe, the more people who have opportunity. We think we can give you that. And we will tell you when we do it, we don't spend a lot of time arguing about a player sucks or a coach sucks. We assume that they're going to do their best. If a player knew he was going to airball 3, he wouldn't have shot it. We also don't spend a lot of time on the Yankees versus the Red Sox or what LeBron thinks. We kind of cover Illini, Big Ten, and some sports we're interested in that we have fans talk to us about. And the other thing is like I said, we try to have a lot of fun and we don't take ourselves so seriously. If you have an opportunity to help support us, we appreciate it. You can always drop Larry or I a line. It's real easy. Larry at IlliniGuys.com, Mike at IlliniGuys.com. Send us what you want. We are always willing to listen to the fans. We enjoy that. And most importantly, if you can subscribe to IlliniGuys.com, subscribe to the IlliniGuys.com YouTube channel, and subscribe to the audio distributor of your choice. Please do that. We would love to have you. Larry, any final thoughts as we wrap this 2025 year in review?
No, fun year. Lots to be excited about if you're an Illini fan going out of 2025 and going into 2026 with all the teams we talked about and the coaches and players. Look, for everyone, many blessings. Be safe. Man, make somebody's day. Say hi to a stranger. I mean, simple, little things. I say that again because, like I said, we got fewer days ahead of us than we had. I'm not going to live to 100 and how old am I? I'm not going to live to be 115. That's not going to happen. 114. So, yeah, just go make it happen and go Illini.
ILL and go Illini.
I know. See you, Mike.
Take care, folks.